Have you ever wondered why some people seem to accumulate wealth effortlessly while others struggle their entire lives, despite working just as hard or even harder? The answer might be more uncomfortable than you're ready to hear. The truth about wealth creation isn't hidden in some secret formula or locked away in knowledge only accessible to the elite. It's actually brutally simple. So simple that most people refuse to accept it. Has this ever happened to you? You work diligently, follow all the conventional wisdom about saving and investing, yet somehow financial freedom remains just out of reach. What I'm about to share today will challenge everything you've been taught about money, success, and the path to financial independence. Stay with me until the end, because these insights might be exactly what you need to hear to transform your financial future. Let's get right to it. The harsh reality about wealth is that acquiring it isn't complicated. It's brutally simple. Most people never achieve financial abundance not because it's difficult to understand, but because they refuse to face the brutal aspects of the process. They want wealth to come easily, without discomfort or challenge, which is contrary to how real wealth is built. The journey requires facing uncomfortable truths and making decisions that often go against conventional wisdom. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. What you're about to discover might surprise you, but predictability is one of the greatest enemies of wealth creation. Most people remain poor because they are predictable. They follow the same routine daily. Wake up, check their phone, go to work, complain, return home, watch TV, and repeat. This predictable behavior provides comfort, but ultimately kills ambition and makes people easy to control. The system thrives on your predictability, feeding you just enough to keep you satisfied, but never enough to break free. Neville Goddard, the master of understanding human potential and power, would recognize this fundamental truth. The person who owns the system gets rich, while those who merely play within it stay poor. Getting wealthy isn't about luck or genius, but having the courage to stop playing by rules designed to keep you from succeeding. The rules of poverty say work hard, save a little, and hope for the best. The rules of wealth say own, control, and multiply. Think about it. Have you been playing by rules created to ensure someone else's success rather than your own? Are you trapped in cycles of predictability that keep you comfortable but ultimately powerless? The system doesn't want you to be wealthy. It wants you to be manageable. And as we continue to explore this topic further, if these principles on wealth creation resonated with you, hit subscribe now to join thousands of others who are breaking free from financial limitations. This channel is dedicated to those who want the unfiltered truth about building real wealth. And this realization leads us to perhaps the most jarring truth on this journey toward financial freedom. The safety you've been chasing is the biggest illusion of all. The hidden truth that most never confront is that people fear risk and failure more than they desire success. This fear becomes the architect of our self-built cages, comfortable prisons, where dreams slowly wither while we convince ourselves we're being responsible. What's the first piece of financial advice most people receive? Get a stable job with good benefits. This mindset transformation begins when you recognize that clinging to the illusion of stability might be the riskiest decision you'll ever make. The supposedly safe path is actually fraught with danger. Jobs disappear overnight, economies crash without warning, and inflation silently erodes your savings year after year. Behind the scenes, those who understood this reality early have already positioned themselves differently. I've witnessed countless revelations in people's eyes when they finally grasp this concept. The true security doesn't come from avoiding risk. It comes from embracing calculated risks that build your capacity to respond to whatever life throws your way. This isn't about recklessness. It's about recognizing the difference between perceived safety and actual resilience. Now, another critical distinction that separates the wealthy from everyone else is understanding the profound difference between activity and progress. The impact of this single insight can completely redirect your financial journey. Many people confuse being busy with being productive. They work hard and hustle, but in entirely the wrong direction. They invest precious energy in jobs that cap their growth potential, habits that dull their ambition rather than sharpen it, and relationships that drain their focus instead of enhancing it. Then they wonder why they feel stuck despite all their efforts. This misalignment between action and outcome creates the frustrating cycle of working harder without seeing corresponding results. True progress requires alignment between your actions and wealth-building principles. Each hour you invest should move you toward ownership, not just employment, toward leverage, not just labor, toward assets that work for you, not just a paycheck that keeps you working. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what Neville Goddard understood about the psychology of wealth creation. He recognized that people are fundamentally driven by two forces, fear and desire. The mastery of wealth isn't just about money, but about understanding and controlling these basic human drives. Those who can make others desire what they offer will always be rich. Those who position themselves as indispensable will always be powerful. This isn't manipulation, it's a profound understanding of human nature and value creation. The woman who can position herself as the one others cannot ignore will naturally attract opportunity. The man who solves problems others can't or won't tackle becomes invaluable in any market. The decisions you make today about how you'll provide value, what problems you'll solve, and whose desires you'll fulfill will shape your financial destiny far more than any investment strategy or budget plan alone. Write in the comments, "I choose creation over consumption," if this perspective is shifting how you think about your financial journey. I'm curious to see who's ready to embrace these principles, but here's the raw truth that few people talk about. There's a price to stepping out of the system, a transformation tax that comes due when you begin to rise. When you start breaking patterns and building wealth, you'll face something that can be more challenging than financial obstacles: social resistance. The journey toward wealth inevitably attracts envy. People will whisper behind your back, claim you're just lucky or worse, label you as greedy or even evil. Neville Goddard warned about this dynamic decades ago. If you want power, you must be prepared for enemies. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. The path to wealth requires developing an emotional resilience to face fear, doubt, and criticism from those closest to you. Sometimes the people you expect to cheer the loudest for your success will be the first to question your methods or motives. Behind the scenes of every success story is this untold chapter of isolation, where the wealth builder must find inner conviction strong enough to withstand external judgment. This is precisely why mindset development becomes as crucial as financial strategy. You're not just building a portfolio, you're building the psychological foundation to sustain your growth when the inevitable resistance comes. And where does this resistance originate? The answer reveals another uncomfortable truth. From childhood, we've been methodically programmed to stay small. Think about the core messages embedded in most upbringings. Follow rules without question, avoid taking risks, don't stand out too much, and always stay in line. The revelation that shocks many is that this script isn't designed to make you successful. It's designed to make you controllable. This societal conditioning runs deep, influencing decisions we don't even realize we're making. The person who questions too much, who takes calculated risks, who steps outside conventional paths, this person threatens the status quo, and systems are designed to protect themselves. Controlled people never rise to wealth or power because their potential has been carefully contained within boundaries they've been taught never to cross. Now, let's examine perhaps the most powerful institution reinforcing this programming, our education systems. Have you ever wondered why schools rarely teach how money actually works? Why practical skills like sales, investing, or entrepreneurship are absent from most curricula? The hidden truth is that most educational institutions aren't designed to create owners. They're designed to create reliable workers. They reward sitting still, following instructions, memorizing information rather than applying it, creatively, and accepting authority without question. These are precisely the qualities that make someone an excellent employee, but rarely lead to wealth creation. The system creates the perfect preparation for servitude, not financial independence. The most valuable financial skills, negotiation, leverage, asset creation, cash flow management, are left for you to discover on your own, often decades into adulthood. What's particularly striking about this reality is how deliberately these educational gaps seem designed. It's as if the blueprint for wealth has been intentionally omitted from public knowledge, creating a disconnect between effort and outcome for millions of hard-working people. Drop in the comments, breaking the mold, if you've noticed these patterns in your own life and are committed to reprogramming your relationship with wealth. This educational gap creates a fundamental challenge, but also an extraordinary opportunity for those willing to see differently. Because wealth, at its core, comes from vision, the ability to see what others cannot or will not see. The wealthy aren't blessed with mystical powers of perception. They've simply cultivated a different way of looking at the world. They recognize patterns that others miss, spot gaps in markets where others see only problems, and understand timing in ways that seem almost prophetic to outsiders. The revelation here is that vision isn't some inborn gift. It's a skill that can be developed through consistent practice. It's built through constant learning, deliberate observation, and most importantly, through action. The wealthy immerse themselves in environments that stretch their perspective. They study markets, industries, and human behavior with intensity that borders on obsession. They experiment, take calculated risks, and adjust based on feedback, creating a cycle of growth that continuously sharpens their ability to spot opportunity. The transformation happens gradually. You begin noticing inefficiencies in systems that everyone else accepts as normal. You start recognizing unmet needs that no one else is addressing. You develop an almost instinctive sense for trends before they become obvious. This evolved perception is perhaps the most valuable asset you can develop on your wealth journey. Now, let's explore the actual toolbox of skills that dramatically increase your chances of creating wealth. Behind every financial breakthrough is a set of practical capabilities that the wealthy have mastered. Sales, or more broadly, the ability to persuade, sits at the top of this list. Whether you're selling products, services, or ideas, the capacity to influence others toward mutually beneficial outcomes is indispensable. Financial literacy forms another cornerstone, understanding how money works, how assets generate returns, and how to read the hidden language of balance sheets and cash flows. Communication skills amplify everything else you do, allowing you to build alliances, negotiate effectively, and lead others toward shared visions. Perhaps most crucial is the ability to build systems that work without your constant input, the true catalyst for scaling beyond the limitations of your own time and energy. The impact of developing even one of these skills at a high level can completely redirect your financial trajectory. The compounding effect when you combine several of them is where true wealth acceleration begins. but the mindset. Revelation that accompanies skill development is equally powerful. You begin to see yourself as someone who creates value, rather than someone who merely trades time for money. Let's address what might be the most challenging aspect of this journey: developing the courage to be disliked. Getting rich often means making unpopular choices that confuse, concern, or even anger those around you. While most people direct their energy toward gaining approval, the wealthy maintain a relentless focus on results. Subscribe to continue this journey toward financial independence with me. Every video strips away another illusion, keeping most people trapped in mediocrity. Join our community of action takers who understand that wealth is brutally simple. Neville Goddard noted this principle in his teachings, that greatness often requires standing apart from the crowd, even when they mock or criticize your choices. The decisions that lead to uncommon wealth frequently look irrational to those programmed for ordinary lives. Quitting a secure job to start a business, investing heavily during economic downturns, saying no to immediate pleasures to invest in long-term assets. These choices rarely win popularity contests in the moment. Type "courageously different" in the comments if you're ready to make decisions based on your vision rather than seeking the approval of those who don't share it. This courage opens the door to another fundamental truth about wealth creation. Risk is absolutely essential for reward. The breakthrough moment in many wealth journeys comes with the realization that all meaningful financial growth involves some degree of risk. The illuminating distinction here is that the difference between the poor and the rich isn't that the rich somehow avoid risk, it's that they understand it, calculate it, and strategically leverage it. The wealthy develop what I call a risk intelligence, the capacity to evaluate potential downsides against potential rewards with emotional clarity. They recognize that without thoughtful risk-taking, returns inevitably remain small. This represents a profound mindset shift from how most people approach financial decisions. The average person focuses exclusively on avoiding loss, while the wealth builder focuses on maximizing opportunity within acceptable risk parameters. Behind the scenes of every fortune is a series of calculated risks that look dangerous to outsiders, but made perfect sense to those who took them. The revelation that transforms financial trajectories is understanding that security doesn't come from avoiding risk. It comes from becoming skilled at taking the right risks at the right time. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring one of the most fascinating paradoxes of wealth creation, the way the wealthy combine seemingly contradictory mindsets. They operate with a sense of daily urgency while simultaneously maintaining long-term patience. This duality creates a powerful framework for consistent progress. The urgency manifests in how they approach each day, maximizing productive hours, making decisions efficiently, and maintaining relentless forward momentum. Yet this immediate intensity exists alongside the patience to watch their efforts compound over years or even decades. They build empires brick by brick, understanding that wealth accumulation follows natural growth cycles that can't be rushed beyond certain points. This paradoxical thinking allows them to avoid both the traps of procrastination and the pitfalls of get-rich-quick schemes. The journey reveals that wealth creation isn't about finding the one big breakthrough, but rather about sustained application of proven principles over time. The transformation happens when you embrace both the sprinter's intensity and the marathon runner's endurance. Perhaps most importantly, the wealthy develop a completely different relationship with failure than most people. While conventional thinking positions failure as the opposite of success, the rich understand that failure is actually part of success, an essential component of any significant achievement. They view setbacks not as final judgments on their abilities, but as valuable data points that guide their next moves. When a business venture fails, they don't internalize it as personal inadequacy. They extract specific lessons that make their next attempt more likely to succeed. This perspective shift changes everything. Failures become laboratories rather than graveyards. Every no brings them closer to a yes. Every mistake refines their approach. The impact of this mindset is cumulative, creating a knowledge advantage that compounds over time. What makes this approach so powerful is how it transforms the emotional experience of building wealth. Without this perspective, the inevitable failures along the way become crushing disappointments. With it, they become expected and even valuable steps in the process. Drop "failing forward" in the comments if you're ready to embrace setbacks as the necessary steps toward your financial breakthrough. This shift in perspective leads us to one of the most profound distinctions between those who achieve financial freedom and those who remain trapped in financial struggle: the focus on building systems rather than just chasing income. The enlightening discovery that changes everything is that the poor consistently focus their energy on earning money, while the rich direct their attention toward creating systems that generate money without their direct involvement. This single paradigm shift represents perhaps the most pivotal transformation on the wealth-building journey. When you build a system, whether it's a business with employees, a portfolio of income-producing assets, or intellectual property that generates royalties, you break free from the fundamental limitation of trading time for money. The revelation here is that true financial freedom doesn't come from a high salary, but from income that continues whether you show up to work or not. Behind the scenes of every fortune is a carefully constructed ecosystem of value creation that continues producing results even when its creator is sleeping, traveling, or focused elsewhere. The wealthy understand that their personal energy, no matter how great, is finite, but the output of a well-designed system can be virtually limitless. This is how wealth grows exponentially rather than linearly. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining the catalyst that makes system building possible: leverage. The breakthrough moment for many wealth creators comes with the realization that leverage multiplies every ounce of effort they invest. The wealthy consistently use other people's time, other people's money, and other people's resources to build their fortunes far beyond what they could achieve alone. This principle operates across every domain of wealth creation. When you hire employees, you leverage other people's time and skills. When you secure investment or financing, you leverage other people's capital. When you utilize existing platforms, technologies, or distribution channels, you leverage infrastructure others have built. The impact of this approach is transformative. Suddenly, your output isn't limited by your personal capacity. The mindset shift required to embrace leverage involves overcoming the self-reliance programming many of us received growing up. We were taught that doing everything ourselves shows character and work ethic. The wealthy recognize that without leverage, wealth remains limited by the hours in your day and your individual capabilities. True scale comes through multiplication, not addition. Equally crucial to your wealth journey is understanding how dramatically your circle of influence shapes your financial destiny. Your network doesn't just impact your opportunities, it fundamentally alters your thinking, your beliefs about what's possible, and your standards for achievement. The wealthy deliberately engineer their social environments, surrounding themselves with people who challenge their limitations, inspire greater ambition, and open doors to new possibilities. This curation of relationships isn't about manipulative networking or using people. It's about creating mutually beneficial connections with others who share similar values and drive. What's particularly striking is how decisively the wealthy remove negative influences from their lives. People who consistently doubt, criticize, or drain energy rather than contribute to growth. This willingness to establish boundaries, sometimes with close friends or even family members, reflects a profound commitment to their vision. Type "upgrading my circle" in the comments if you've noticed how certain relationships either elevate or limit your financial growth potential. The deliberate curation of your social environment connects directly to another principle that Neville Goddard emphasized in his teachings: the critical importance of perception. He wrote that appearances often matter more than reality in human affairs. When people perceive you as successful, competent, and valuable, doors mysteriously begin to open. Opportunities present themselves. Connections form more easily. This isn't about superficial impressions. It's about the profound way perception shapes reality, especially in business and wealth. Creation. The revelation here isn't about creating false appearances or pretending to be something you're not. Rather, it's about understanding the psychological dynamics that influence human decisions. First impressions, personal presentation, and how you communicate your value fundamentally affect how others respond to you. The transformation happens when you begin consciously shaping these perceptions rather than leaving them to chance. Behind the scenes of many successful ventures is a carefully cultivated perception of capability, quality, and value that preceded the actual material success. This principle operates across all domains, from how you present yourself in interviews to how you position your business in the marketplace. The mindset shift involves recognizing that managing perceptions isn't manipulative. It's an essential component of communicating your true value to the world. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by addressing a challenge that receives far too little attention: the art of protecting wealth once you've created it. The journey reveals a sobering truth. Making money is hard, but keeping it is often harder. When wealth begins to accumulate, it fundamentally changes how people see you, sometimes attracting envy, opportunism, and complicated dynamics even among those closest to you. The wealthy develop a protective mindset, guarding their assets with the same care and attention they used to create them in the first place. They utilize legal structures like trusts, corporations, and careful estate planning. They establish clear boundaries around financial relationships. They approach new opportunities with healthy skepticism rather than naive optimism. This vigilance isn't born from paranoia, but from the realistic understanding that wealth without protection quickly dissipates. What's particularly striking about this principle is how it contradicts the carefree image of wealth often portrayed in media. Behind the glamorous facade of success is usually a sophisticated infrastructure of protection, management, and strategic thinking that preserves what has been built. Equally important on this journey is developing the right relationship with wealth once it begins flowing into your life. The discipline paradox emerges at this stage. When you first taste success, you'll face powerful temptations to spend on status symbols and visible markers of achievement. The truly wealthy, however, maintain a completely different spending philosophy. They don't spend for status, but for strategy, buying assets instead of liabilities, purchasing freedom rather than approval. This represents perhaps the most crucial mindset distinction on the entire wealth-building journey. The nouveau riche buy expensive cars, luxury vacations, and designer clothes to signal their arrival. The truly wealthy focus first on strengthening their financial foundation, expanding their asset base, and securing their long-term freedom. They understand that true wealth isn't about what you can buy. It's about what you can build that lasts. Type "strategic wealth builder" in the comments if you're committed to building wealth that lasts rather than just chasing the appearance of success. This strategic approach to wealth illuminates what truly matters at the end of this journey, the ultimate goal, which is not money itself, but freedom. The profound revelation that changes everything is understanding that true wealth isn't measured by possessions or account balances, but by your control over your own time and life. No boss dictating your schedule, no alarm clock interrupting your natural rhythms, no begging for days off to attend important life events. This represents the essence of real power, living entirely on your own terms. The transformation that occurs when you reach this stage is nothing short of extraordinary. Your relationship with time fundamentally shifts. Decisions are made based on value and meaning, rather than financial necessity. Your creativity expands when released from the constraints of mandatory productivity. Behind the scenes of what appears to be material success is actually something far more precious, the reclamation of your life's direction and purpose. What makes this perspective so powerful is how it clarifies every decision along the wealth-building journey. Each investment, business move, or career choice can be evaluated through a simple lens. Does this bring me closer to, or further from true freedom? This clarity cuts through the noise and distraction of conventional financial thinking that often confuses the symbols of wealth with its substance. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by addressing perhaps the most common obstacle that prevents people from achieving financial freedom: the gap between knowledge and implementation. The breakthrough realization that changes trajectories is that knowledge without action is entirely worthless. You can consume endless books, courses, podcasts, and videos about wealth creation, but without consistent implementation, you'll remain precisely where you are. Neville Goddard understood this principle deeply. He taught that fortune favors those who not only prepare mentally, but who take decisive action in the physical world. The universe responds not to what you know, but to what you do with what you know. This insight cuts to the core of why so many remain financially stagnant despite having access to more information than any previous generation in human history. The journey reveals that the difference between the financially free and the financially stuck rarely comes down to what they know. It almost always comes down to what they consistently do. Knowledge without application becomes merely intellectual entertainment rather than a catalyst for real change. The impact of this understanding is immediate. It shifts focus from passive consumption to active creation. Closely related to this principle is another key distinction: the relentless focus on mastery rather than scattered attention. The revelation that accelerates wealth creation is recognizing that instead of dividing your energy across many different areas, choosing one valuable skill and mastering it creates exponentially greater returns. Mastery builds confidence, and confidence naturally attracts money. This approach contradicts the common advice to diversify your skills and attention. While diversification has its place in investing in skill development, depth often trumps breadth, especially early in your wealth journey. Whether your chosen skill is sales, marketing, coding, investing, leadership, or creative production, sharpening it daily creates a compound effect that eventually makes you indispensable in your field. Leave a comment with the words "freedom focused" if you understand that the real purpose of wealth is creating a life of autonomy and meaningful choices rather than just accumulation. This commitment to mastery naturally evolves into what might be the most transformative shift on your wealth journey: developing the owner's mindset. The revelation that changes everything is learning to think like an owner rather than a worker. This distinction goes far deeper than job titles or business structures. It represents a fundamental rewiring of how you perceive value creation and compensation. Workers consistently ask, "How much will I earn per hour?" Their entire financial framework revolves around trading finite time for money. Owners ask a profoundly different question: how much can I create that continues earning for me forever? This single mindset shift opens the door to genuine wealth because it breaks the direct connection between time invested and money received. Behind the scenes of this transformation is a complete reconceptualization of what value actually means. Workers see value as their labor. Owners see value as solving problems at scale. The impact of this perspective shift ripples through every financial decision you make, from how you approach your current job, to how you invest your resources, to what opportunities you recognize as significant. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining a truth that shatters the myth of the self-made success. You absolutely cannot get rich alone. The journey reveals that meaningful wealth creation requires leverage, tools, systems, people, and platforms that multiply your efforts beyond what you could possibly accomplish by yourself. The breakthrough understanding is that wealth isn't about working harder, but about creating structures that work effectively without your direct involvement. This principle manifests in countless forms across different wealth-building paths. Entrepreneurs build teams that extend their impact. Investors use financial instruments that multiply their capital. Content creators develop intellectual property that generates revenue while they sleep. Real estate investors acquire properties that produce income with minimal personal attention. The common thread is the deliberate development of mechanisms that amplify output beyond personal capacity. What makes this approach so powerful is how it transcends the fundamental limitation of individual effort. No matter how talented, hardworking, or brilliant you might be, there are only 24 hours in your day. True wealth comes from breaking free of this constraint through strategic leverage, allowing your impact and your income to grow exponentially rather than linearly. The decision to pursue this path comes with an important caveat that's rarely discussed openly. Building wealth will test every aspect of your character. It will demand patience when results come slowly, courage when facing uncertainty, and discipline when temptations arise. The hidden truth of the journey is that people may mock your ambitions, friends might distance themselves as your priorities shift, and family members may fundamentally misunderstand your choices. This represents the brutal price of pursuing financial freedom. But those who have completed the journey will tell you that the reward far outweighs the cost. The transformation isn't just financial, it's a complete evolution of how you see yourself and your capacity to impact the world. The challenges along the way aren't obstacles to success. They're the forge in which your wealth-building character is developed. What's particularly striking about this reality is how it contradicts the sanitized overnight success stories often portrayed in media. The revelations that come through genuine experience show that significant achievement in any domain requires confronting difficulty rather than avoiding it. Comment "owner not worker" below if you're making the mental shift from trading hours for dollars to creating systems that generate wealth. These challenges forge the resilience necessary for the next critical phase of your wealth journey, learning to protect your financial fortress once it begins to take shape. The revelation that changes everything is understanding that as wealth grows, it requires deliberate protection through multiple layers of defense. This means using clear contracts rather than casual agreements, establishing firm boundaries around your resources, removing parasitic relationships without guilt, and developing the wisdom to anticipate potential betrayal before it occurs. Neville Goddard warns specifically about the power of envy, how it drives others to attack or undermine what they cannot themselves achieve. This same destructive force continues to target the wealthy today, often manifesting through subtle forms of manipulation or exploitation from unexpected sources. The transformation that occurs when you adopt this protective mindset isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about becoming prudently vigilant. Behind the scenes of every enduring fortune is a sophisticated infrastructure of protection, legal entities that shield assets, advisors who provide objective guidance, and policies that govern how resources are managed. The impact of this approach extends far beyond simple preservation. It creates the stable foundation necessary for continued growth and eventual legacy. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining one of the most common pitfalls on the wealth journey, what I call the nouveau riche trap. The journey reveals a sobering pattern. Many who achieve sudden wealth lose it all within a relatively short period. They make the catastrophic error of spending rather than investing, buying depreciating toys instead of building appreciating systems, trying desperately to look rich rather than implementing strategies to stay rich. This phenomenon stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what wealth actually is. True wealth isn't about consumption capabilities, but about control. Control over your time, your choices, and your future. When someone who has been financially constrained suddenly experiences abundance, the temptation to compensate for past limitations through extravagant spending can be overwhelming. The mindset shift that prevents this trap is recognizing that real wealth building only begins after money arrives, not ends with its arrival. What makes this insight so powerful is how it reframes the very purpose of financial success. Material possessions serve as tools and occasional rewards within a wealth strategy, not as the strategy's ultimate aim. The wealthy understand that maintaining and growing capital creates far more long-term freedom than temporarily impressing others through conspicuous consumption. This perspective naturally connects to perhaps the most meaningful aspect of the wealth journey, building something that outlasts you. Neville Goddard wrote eloquently that true leaders must think not just of today's circumstances, but of tomorrow's possibilities and the welfare of generations yet to come. This principle applies profoundly to wealth creation. The revelation that elevates your financial thinking is recognizing that true wealth creates a legacy, assets that continue producing value long after you're gone, and a reputation that carries weight when your name is mentioned in your absence. This legacy perspective transforms how you make financial decisions at every level. Short-term thinking gives way to multi-generational planning. Extraction mindsets are replaced by stewardship principles. The impact extends far beyond financial metrics into the realm of meaning and purpose. Behind the scenes of significant wealth is almost always a vision that extends beyond the individual's lifetime. Type "building my legacy" in the comments if you're thinking beyond just personal financial freedom to creating lasting impact through your wealth journey. This legacy mindset highlights a sobering truth about wealth creation. The primary obstacle for most people isn't lack of information, but lack of implementation. The revelation that explains why wealth remains relatively rare isn't that the principles are complicated or mysterious. It's that few people have the stomach for the sustained discipline these principles require. Most will hear these truths, nod in agreement, perhaps feel temporarily inspired, but then inevitably return to the comfort of familiar patterns, continuing their daily cycles of consumption, distraction, and complaint. This reality creates both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is obvious. Transforming knowledge into consistent action demands a level of self-mastery that most never develop. The opportunity lies in recognizing that this very difficulty creates a natural filter that reduces your competition. Behind the scenes of every financial breakthrough is a person who simply continued implementing fundamental principles long after the initial excitement faded and when everyone else had already quit. The journey reveals that discipline isn't about white-knuckling your way through miserable activities. True discipline emerges when your daily actions align with a compelling vision that pulls you forward. The impact of developing this rare quality extends far beyond financial results into every area of life, creating a character foundation that no market fluctuation can shake. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what makes the discipline worthwhile: the vision of freedom that true wealth provides. Imagine waking up each morning knowing you never have to work a job again unless you choose to. Envision purchasing what you want without calculating whether you can afford it. Not because you're reckless, but because you've built sufficient resources. Picture traveling when and where you desire without requesting permission or worrying about return dates. Contemplate building something substantial enough to support not just yourself, but generations to come. This freedom represents the essence of genuine wealth. Not the trappings or symbols that often distract, but the fundamental autonomy to direct your own life according to your values and purpose. The mindset shift that makes this vision attainable is recognizing that freedom isn't just the end result of wealth creation. It's the guiding principle that informs every step of the journey. What makes this perspective so powerful is how it clarifies your priorities. Decisions become simpler when filtered through the question, does this bring me closer to true freedom or push it further away? The temporary sacrifices required no longer feel like deprivation, but like strategic investments in your ultimate vision. The transformation occurs when freedom becomes your primary currency, more valuable than money itself. This clarity about the destination illuminates the path. The road to financial independence follows a surprisingly simple pattern that remains consistent across different eras. Economies and individual circumstances learn valuable skills, build systems that apply those skills at scale, own assets that appreciate and produce income, protect what you've created, multiply through reinvestment, and repeat this cycle with ever-increasing resources. The breakthrough understanding is that by mastering yourself, your fears, and your discipline, you gain the ability to control not just money, but your entire destiny. This inner mastery precedes and enables the outer results that most focus on exclusively. Behind the scenes of every wealth story is this same fundamental sequence, adapted to specific circumstances but consistent in its core principles. Drop discipline equals freedom in the comments if you understand that financial independence isn't about complexity, it's about consistently applying simple principles that most aren't willing to follow. This understanding of the path brings us to perhaps the most pivotal moment in your wealth journey, the decision to start now, not tomorrow. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that procrastination is the silent killer of financial transformation. Don't wait for perfect conditions or promise yourself you'll begin when circumstances improve. Take immediate action. Select one valuable skill to develop. Dedicate time to understand how money truly works. Take a calculated risk that stretches your comfort zone, or build something even small that can grow over time. The breakthrough insight is that every empire in history began with a single brick, every substantial fortune with one decisive step. Behind the scenes of every success story is that critical moment when someone stopped planning and started executing, often with imperfect information and limited resources. The mindset shift occurs when you realize that the perfect moment to begin doesn't exist. There is only now, with all its messy reality and limited clarity. What makes this approach so powerful is how it bypasses the most common form of self-deception, the belief that your future self will somehow possess more discipline, courage, or capability than your present self. The impact of taking immediate action, even on a small scale, creates momentum that theoretical planning never can. The transformation happens through doing, not through endless preparation. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining why immediate action is particularly crucial given the nature of our economic environment. The hidden truth that few discuss openly is that the system doesn't actually want you wealthy. It wants you predictable. Predictable people can be reliably taxed, efficiently managed, and systematically manipulated to benefit those already in positions of power and influence. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's simply how systems naturally function to maintain stability and serve existing stakeholders. The journey reveals that breaking free from financial limitation often requires first breaking free from predictable patterns of consumption, career progression, and investment. The revelation is that your financial potential is directly proportional to your willingness to become strategically unpredictable in a world designed for conformity. What's particularly striking about this reality is how it manifests through seemingly benign cultural messages. Work steady jobs, avoid risk, follow conventional paths, accept gradual progress. These aren't necessarily bad directives, but they often serve to maintain the current distribution of resources rather than enable significant mobility between economic classes. This perspective becomes clearer when we use a powerful metaphor that Neville Goddard might appreciate, imagining wealth as a river flowing through society. Most people stand passively on the shore, hoping for occasional splashes to come their way through jobs and conventional opportunities. Meanwhile, the truly wealthy take a fundamentally different approach. They build sophisticated pipes and channels to divert significant portions of that flow directly onto their land. It's the same river and the same water, but entirely different outcomes based on positioning and infrastructure. The breakthrough understanding is that controlling the flow creates exponentially different results than simply waiting for random splashes. The decisions you make about how you'll interact with this river of resources, whether through business models, investment vehicles, or value creation strategies, determine your financial destiny far more than how hard you work within conventional structures. Type "building my pipeline" in the comments if you're committed to creating systems that capture financial flow rather than just working harder for splashes of opportunity. This understanding of financial flow systems brings us to one of the most liberating realizations on your wealth journey: the necessity of breaking free from societal scripts about what constitutes success. These prescribed narratives have been carefully crafted and reinforced throughout your life. Get educated through conventional channels, find a stable job with good benefits, save a modest portion of your income, and hopefully retire comfortably someday. The revelation that changes everything is recognizing that while these scripts keep most people in line, they rarely lead to true wealth or financial freedom. The transformation begins when you develop the courage to question these narratives and craft your own definition of success. Behind the scenes of every substantial fortune is someone who recognized the limitations of conventional wisdom and deliberately chose a different path. The impact of this decision ripples through every aspect of your financial life, from career choices to investment strategies to how you measure progress. What makes this perspective shift so powerful is that it frees you from the invisible constraints that limit most people's financial potential. The journey reveals that wealth creation often happens in the spaces between established paths, in the questions that challenge assumptions, and in the willingness to pursue opportunity where others see only risk or uncertainty. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining what happens once you've broken free from limiting scripts. The necessity of consistent execution. The marketplace delivers perhaps the most brutally honest feedback system in existence, rewarding doers and ignoring dreamers regardless of their potential or intentions. The breakthrough understanding is that results come exclusively from action, not from plans, hopes, or unrealized capabilities. This reality cuts through one of the most common forms of self-deception, the belief that your potential or knowledge somehow matters more than your actual output. The journey reveals that the marketplace doesn't care what you could do or what you know. It only responds to the value you actually create through implementation. This principle operates with perfect fairness and perfect brutality across all domains of wealth creation. Closely connected to this focus on execution is another crucial distinction: the ability to maintain emotional discipline around money. The wealthy develop an unusual relationship with finances, making decisions based primarily on mathematical realities and strategic considerations, rather than emotional reactions. They neither fear money nor worship it. They simply use it as a tool for creating the outcomes they desire. This emotional control prevents the catastrophic mistakes that regularly destroy potential fortunes. Panic selling during market downturns, impulsive purchases that drain capital, emotional business decisions that ignore underlying economics, or fear-based inaction when opportunity presents itself. The mindset shift occurs when you recognize that wealth creation is fundamentally a rational process, occasionally interrupted by emotional storms that must be weathered with discipline. All of these principles point to what might be the most important truth of this entire discussion. Getting rich isn't complicated, it's brutally simple. The concepts, strategies, and mindsets we've explored aren't difficult to understand. The real question that determines your financial destiny isn't whether you comprehend these principles, but whether you're willing to face the brutal part of implementing them, making difficult choices that most avoid, maintaining discipline when others indulge, and sacrificing immediate comfort for long-term freedom. If this message resonates with your own experience, write "embracing the brutal simplicity" in the comments below. So here we are. We've stripped away the illusions and confronted the brutal simplicity of wealth creation. This path isn't for everyone, and that's precisely the point. Those who embrace these principles and actually implement them consistently find themselves in an increasingly rare category of people, those who live by design rather than by default. If you found yourself nodding along, perhaps feeling that uncomfortable recognition that comes when truth resonates despite its challenge, then this message found the right person. I create these conversations specifically for those willing to face reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. If you're one of those rare individuals committed to financial freedom rather than financial fantasy, I'd love to have you join our community. Hit that subscribe button so we can continue this journey together. Each week, I break down another aspect of wealth creation without the sugarcoating that makes other financial content so ineffective. Did this perspective shift something for you today? Drop "brutal simplicity accepted" in the comments if you're committed to facing the challenging but rewarding path we've discussed. Your comment helps others discover this message and builds our community of clear-eyed wealth builders. If you found value in these insights, a simple like tells me this approach resonates and helps more people discover content that doesn't just entertain, but actually transforms. I appreciate you staying with me through these uncomfortable but necessary truths. For those ready to take the next step, I've created a video right here that explores exactly how to implement your first wealth-building system, the kind that generates income while you sleep. Click through and let's continue this conversation where theory meets practical application. Remember, wealth isn't complicated. It's brutally simple. The only question that matters is whether you're ready to embrace both parts of that equation.